So I am of a Ngāti Hine and Ngāti Tūwharetoa descent. I grew up in Whangarei, and I spent most of my 10 years there before moving away to Auckland, where I lived with my uncle for a while, and I went to college and found myself a job. But I'm very close with my family, always have been, and they're very supportive whānau. I actually worked in Auckland, and then I decided to myself I needed to find a family, not like my family, but a family like me. And I'd heard about kamarupe, and so I thought, well, you know, maybe I could go to Wellington and find this family I'm looking for, because I lived in a world where I worked, I went home, but something was missing. So a part of me was missing. I think it was companionship, wanting to engage with like-minded people like myself. And I left Auckland, I think I was 17, to come to Wellington and find a new life. I think it was just loneliness that brought me here. How'd I hear about Carmen? She was on television one day when I was still an intermediate, and I saw her on the TV, and I said to my mum, "Who's that?" And she said, "That's Carmen." And I said, "No, who's Carmen?" She goes, "She's like, she wasn't born a woman, but she lives her life as a woman." And I thought, that's always how I felt. And I thought, that's really brave of somebody like her to do that. And I'm like, if she can do that, then I can. And I think at that time, even for Carmen, this is conservative New Zealand, 1970s, you know, and all of a sudden this person comes out, and people, you know, the conservative people are probably like, oh my gosh, here's somebody different, somebody who's brave enough to stand up, and somebody, you know, who's proud to be who she is. And she went on from her coffee bar to even run for mayor, which was groundbreaking for the time. I met her, and funny that my mum said, I know her because we went to school together. But she wasn't in my class. So when I did meet Carmen at her 70th birthday, down on the boat shed, down on the wharf here, I said to her, "Can I ask you something?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "My mum went to school with you." And she said, "Well, what's your mum's name?" I said, "Beverly." She goes, "Beverly?" She goes, "Not Beverly Te Pā." And I went, "Yeah." Wonderful icon, a role model. You know, she ran for mayor, which was a big thing at the time. You know, it broke down a lot of barriers. She didn't win, but somebody will pick it up, was going to pick it up in the future. Of course, we all know that is Georgina Bayer, who became the Mayor of Carterton. And she did well, and then became the first world MP. So that was a big leap for Queens is the terminology. It's transgender today, but we were called Queens. So it's progressed from drag queens in the 70s to queens in the 80s to this new word, transgender, which has been created for. I prefer queens myself because I'm old school. When I was growing up, there were only three. There was gay, there were queens, and then there were gay women. Not lesbians, I don't like that word. There were gay women. So now we have different transgender has become a word that people have created because they've become confused as to what is a transvestite and what is a transsexual. So they've created this word, and it's like, oh well, let's just all put them in a box. When really, to me, and I think myself, that the word gender belongs to those who change. But you have other different names for different groups now. You have gender fluid, gender queer, non-conforming, binary. You have the pansexuals, which is quite an old term, really. But these new ones, and it's evolved. So it's not just those three now. There are different categories for how people see themselves, and that's fine. For me, takataapui is a I'm quite happy with that term. We also use whakawahine. Whakawahine to us, well, to me, if you look at the different terminologies they use in the Pacific, very similar. Whawhawhine, whakaleiti, akawaine. The only ones that are different are mahu in Tahiti and akane in Hawaii. But if you look at them, whawhawhine, to be like. But some transgender girls are like, well, I'm not an act, to be like. It says you have the ways of, or you personify. It doesn't say that you are, but a lot of trans Māori girls use the word whakawahine, but are quite happy with takataapui as well, because if it embraces all of us, that's fine, because you don't want to be out on your own. We're whānau because that's the Māori. That's the way we are. We're whānau. And takataapui, I'm quite happy if somebody says to me, are you takataapui? I'm like, yeah, I am takataapui. But I'm also whakawahine as well. So in my family, I had a sister who was whakawahine. Yeah, her name was Saffron, but she passed away in 2000. She lived in Auckland, a different lifestyle, life in the fast lane, drugs, and finally, she died of a drug overdose, which is really sad because, so young. And I wanted her to come down here with me, but having somebody else in the family, but she came later. I only found out from my family that, and I'm like, because she was adopted out. So when they said, oh, your brothers have become, and I'm like, no, not my brothers. They're not. My brothers are like, they're like, no, you're, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I forgot about that one. And so she came here, and she stayed a little while, but just having somebody in the family like myself was kind of like was nice. Since I was young, since I went to primary school, all those times I just wanted to play with the girls. I didn't want that rough stuff, the boys. I always preferred the girls. I used to play elastic and hopscotch and and all those kind of things. I just found that the softer side was more what I liked. When I came to Wellington, it was quite easy to find other girls like myself. They were all down, majority of them were all down on doing street-based sex work. And that's how I found them. And with the coffee bar, it was a kind of a little haven, little gathering place where everybody, it was a safe space for everybody, the coffee lounge. You could go in there and just mingle when things were bad out on the street. But you made connections and you made a lot of friends. And finally, I felt, well, this is who I've been looking for. How I kept myself well was by actually living with a group of girls like myself, because we all lived together. because in those days there's a lot of stigma and stereotyping and discrimination against particularly queens. Employment barriers, housing issues. So if one found a place, then she'd take like another 6 or 7, and that's how households were created. And when I came here, I think there were about 3 or 4 maybe, households of girls that were living under somebody else's roof, and that became your safe space. And as the 80s moved on, I looked back into Māori, because I'd forgotten all about that, and I got into kapahaka. We did have a rōpū down here called whaihuarahi in the 90s. Auckland had 2 groups, takataapui groups, te waka āwhina takataapui, and Mama Teddy's group in South Auckland called te orangahau. So by creating those groups, you created another family, you know, a family, but you also were learning all those treasures that belong to you. And, you know, that creates a sense of belonging and wellness, not just physically, but up here, and remembering all those things that our ancestors taught us that I'd completely put aside. I've known a lot of sisters that have performed in matatini, in different groups, and I've talked to them about performing, and they're like, we didn't think that it was possible, but our people are quite, you know, accepting about that within the group. If they accept you, then you can perform, you know, as a woman, and that gives a lot of power to those girls who can perform, because it's like our people are giving us something that we don't get in the other world. Some health providers have never encountered a transgender patient and don't know how to really deal with their issues. Some may think, well, I trained here to cure people. I didn't train to help you become this person, and that becomes a personal issue. And some trans girls are stereotyped, and I think what needs to happen is that there needs to be a lot of education, because you can deal with a gay male or a gay female, but when you're dealing with a transgender girl, you have to understand what their needs are. When you're talking about personal issues, some health providers might think, well, what are you coming to me for? You need psychological help. Psychological help? I mean, some transgender may go to there to find a GP, not actually look like, you know, not actually look feminine, but are on that journey. And the last thing that health professionals should say to trans people is, well, maybe you need to go and see a psychiatrist, you know, see a psychiatrist, or, oh, well, why would you want to transition? You're too pretty to be a man, or you're too manly to be a woman. If you find a health professional that's not treating you right, they're not the only health professional. There are other health professionals that would be willing to help you. Not everybody is don't judge them, not everybody is the same. And just keep confident in yourself and your well-being, because that's what makes our community the way it is. We're strong, we're independent, but we're stronger together.